Yes, sirree, he is here. He is approximately 2 minutes and 25 seconds late, but nevertheless, he is here. A very good morning to you, Grenada, and the rest of the world. It is a Thursday morning here in the Spice Island. Today happens to be the 23rd day of the month. I'm George Grant saying welcome to today's edition of Gudday Grenada. Good to see you folks. Good morning. This morning, I think we need to remember that the hurricane season is just about upon us. Yeah, just a matter of days. Today is the 23rd, so in about a week or so from now, the 2019 hurricane season will be well underway, even though it seems to have already started. So we're going to take a look at some things you may want to know, and we're also going to reflect a little bit on Hurricane Ivan. Yeah, let us never, ever forget that. See, the folks are on there on Facebook already. We also have the national report for you, and then we are going to be joined by Mr. Allan Bierzynski at, I would say, just before 9:30 or so this morning, okay? So, my dear friends, because we got so much going on, I think we better get right into it and not dilly-dally around. First of all, the hurricane season officially runs from June 1st to November 30th each year. It's best to prepare early in order to prevent loss of lives, minimize damage to property, and to help you in the event that you need to make a quick recovery. Here's a list of the names for the 2019 season. Here we go. We've already had Andrea, not a hurricane, maybe just a minimal storm, but she has fizzled out. We've got Barry, Chantal, Dorian, Erin, Fernand, Gabrielle, Umberto, Imelda, Jerry George, I don't know, Jerry anyway, Karen, Lorenzo, Melissa. I'm sure you're hoping your name's not going to be called, right? Well, Nestor, Olga, Pablo, Rebecca, Sebastian, Tanya, Van, and Wendy. A couple of things you need to know. They usually categorize hurricanes, and you're probably wondering, well, what is this category and what is that category? A category 1 is when a storm reaches 74 miles an hour and it then becomes a hurricane. And up to the point where it reaches 95 miles an hour, it's a category 1. From 96 miles an hour to 110 miles an hour, usually referred to as a moderate storm. From 111 to 130 miles an hour, described as extensive storm. From category 4, in category 4, from 131 to 155 miles an hour. And finally, category 5, from 155 miles an hour up. They simply say catastrophic. All right? So, which of those are we going to get this year? Hopefully, none. Let's take a look back here at Ivan. What I'm showing you on the monitor here is the storm that Ivan took across the Atlantic through the Lesser Antilles, into the Caribbean Sea, into the Gulf of Mexico. Then it made landfall in the Gulf states of the United States. Okay? Didn't stop there. It went on to the Carolinas, hung a right, if you will, made a right turn and head back down the U.S. eastern seaboard, across the southern tip of Florida, and back into the Gulf of Mexico, then towards the state of Texas, where it fizzled. All right? See, Anthony, I bet Anthony is going to be paying close attention to this. Now, this image here, this is Ivan overhead Grenada. That storm, or hurricane, I beg your pardon, claimed 39 lives here and caused a total of 1.1 billion US dollars. Yes, sirree. In today's money, that's about 1.46 billion US dollars, or about 20% of our GDP. By the time the storm fizzled, it had taken a total of 92 lives. So take a quick look at that picture over Grenada. And then, this picture, the morning after. At 9:15 a.m. on the morning of Wednesday, September 8th, this image was taken. Look at the vast expanse of this system. Huh? From well down into South America to just south of Puerto Rico. Many of you will recall pictures like this. Take a look at that. That's one of the pictures in the aftermath of Ivan. And by the way, those are yachts you're looking at there, eh? Look at this one. More yachts, more damage. How many of you remember that? I'm only going to show you, 3 of these pictures this morning. This one I'm sure that many of you still recognize because it's still in pretty much the same shape. Oh boy, oh boy. Tough times those were. Now, that's it for Hurricane Ivan. And I'm asking you, my dear friends, to please get ready. Get ready. I'm not saying we're going to get hit this year, but don't wait until you're told, like in the case of Ivan, bang, it's coming. No, don't wait. Don't wait. All right? On the box here this morning, Peter is in Long Island. It's raining out there, and Fitzroy is saying good morning, and Donna is also saying good morning. Margaret is saying it's raining in New York as well, and she's in Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken. And Benedict Cador, thriving Thursday. Hi, Benedict, good to see you. Chester is saying good morning. Chester's out there in Switzerland. Anthony DeRigg says, good morning, George. Yes, the hurricane season will be here soon. The sad fact is that we do not know who will get hit. With climate change, expect the unexpected. And TF is also saying good morning. Folks, I just want to show you something here very quickly. I only got this a few minutes ago, Apparently, the elections in Dominica are due next week, if I'm not mistaken. This is only a teaser that I'm giving you. This was sent to me just a short while before going on the air. That's one of the reasons why I'm 2 minutes and 25 seconds late this morning. Tonight, you're going to get all the details on tonight's edition of MECWE Chat. But apparently, there's a group of citizens who came together to demand electoral reform in Dominica, okay? When they went out, over the last couple of days, when they went out to protest, they were greeted by this.
The fellas have arrived. This is supposed to be an electoral process. The fellas have arrived. The fellas have arrived. You just have to take your footage of it, partner.
Yeah, I know.
The fellas have arrived. The fellas have arrived. You have to take that. You have to take that. You have to take it. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. The boys have arrived. The boys have arrived. The boys have arrived. An electoral meeting, after all. This is how we come. This is how we come, boy. Where, boy? That's not right. That is 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 not right, my brother. That cannot be right. That cannot be right.
I can't believe it, man.
So that's kind of scary, eh? What I understand is that there's a group that's been formed in Dominica to protest. They are demanding electoral reform. Allegedly, the voters list in Dominica is larger than the population. That should be enough to raise a few eyebrows. Okay, folks, let's take a first little break here, and we'll come back with a national report.
A natural disaster can change your life in minutes. Preparation is the best protection for your family and business. Prepare now. Create a disaster plan and make sure everyone knows what to do. Store water, non-perishable food, and medication. Remember basic emergency supplies such as batteries and flashlights. Trim overhanging trees. If trees near power lines are unsafe to trim, call GRENADA at 237 for assistance or advice. Install surge protectors to safeguard your electrical devices against outages and intermittent surges. For more information, visit grenelec.com.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Quad Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Well, folks, as I take a look at my monitor here, I see that Mr. Bierzynski has shown up. He is still in the process of setting up his iPhone. Apparently, he can't get the iPhone into the right position. So, are you set now, Mr. B? Yes. So I'll tell you what, we can let the national report. I don't want to keep Mr. B waiting this morning, so we're going to get directly to him this morning, and then we'll go into the national report. So, without much more ado, good morning, Mr. Bierzynski. How are you, sir?
Good morning. For the avoidance of doubt, is the sound okay?
Yes, sir. Your sound is absolutely perfect this morning. And
Good.
not only your sound, but the stream. Hey, keep your pinkies crossed. But even as we speak, the stream is beautiful. I see it's out there on Facebook. It's all over the place. So, Mr. B, you're a little bit early this morning. How are you, sir? I see you're sporting your Peugeot t-shirt, golf shirt. No, that's a t-shirt, yes.
Yeah, sentimental reasons. Okay, so lawyers.
Lawyers?
Lawyers seem to have been in the news a lot in the last week or so. And I was remembering, long ago, lawyers were people who, because they wore jackets and ties, were looked up to. And lawyers were considered to be persons of high standing, above reproach.
Yeah, we're supposed to.
I don't know that the sort of coverage that lawyers have been receiving in recent times does anything to promote the image of lawyers or the legal profession. One has to wonder why it is that lawyers seem to like being on TV, particularly when they have to be repeatedly explaining why it is that the outcomes they were hoping for have not been achieved. Now, to tell you the truth, I know that this is a ticklish subject and we live in a very difficult environment. So let me say now, for all those of your viewers and listeners and the people with recording devices, that I am talking about Michael Avenatti, Stormy Daniels' lawyer. Now, Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Michael Avenatti, I'm sure you will remember, was featured on late night TV. He was always on CNN. He was talking about what he was going to do, who he was going to sue, how much money he was going to claim in damages, and on and on and on. And this week, Michael Avenatti was charged with 36 counts in the state of California of fraud, misappropriation of funds, 36 counts. Apparently, it is alleged that he managed to bilk 5 or 6 of his clients out of something like $20 million. With regard to the action against him in a different state, apparently Stormy Daniels is claiming that he misappropriated the majority of the advance she got on her book deal. That book deal apparently must have been seen to be a fairly lucrative venture, alleged, given the fact that he managed to be promised to provide details of a prominent person's physiology. And I certainly, while I do not intend to purchase the book and I have not read any excerpts on the internet, I did see some of her interviews on late night television where she made certain analogies to a character from the Mario cartoon series, which I remember my children used to play with on these handheld Game Boys or whatever it was when they were growing up. So it appears to me that lawyers are not having a good press in recent times, and I would suggest that they ought to avoid going on TV at every opportunity unless they have something worthwhile to tell us. Mm-hmm. Now, with regard to having something worthwhile to tell us.
Before you move away from lawyers, there's a comment here from Margaret in New York. She says, yeah, and it's that supposed beyond reproach belief that a whole lot of poor people are losing their property to unscrupulous lawyers. They always were a bunch of crooks dressed up in jacket and tie. You want to respond to Mags?
I just want to repeat that what led me to start on this was Michael Avenatti.
Oh, okay. You made yourself very clear, sir.
No, with regard to coming on television to clarify matters, we saw an official from Nawasa who was explaining to consumers in the north of the island that because of a recent change in their distribution arrangements, I think one from the Peggy Swim treatment plant and the other one from Mount Rule, that the consumers in Sotes, in the town, will have water that tastes different to consumers in other areas of St. Patrick, supplied by a different water treatment facility. And he made it quite clear that there was nothing wrong with the water, but that the chemical composition between the two was somewhat different. And so the people who had raised concerns were in fact getting supplied with heavy water. Now, my recollection of history is that heavy water is something that you use in building nuclear bombs. And during the Second World War,
You never know.
the Allies spent a lot of time trying to bomb German facilities in Norway, which were reputed to be producing heavy water. Now, I don't think that the heavy water that the Germans were producing in Norway during the Second World War is the same as the heavy water that people in Sotes are now supposedly drinking. Now, that being the case, I recall when Simple Simon was complaining that this idea that water is being supplied to consumers that may be problematic. And he ranted and raved in the upper house. And so now that we know that in fact there has been a change in the composition of the water, I think it is entirely appropriate that further clarification ought to be issued. Because I know, for example, that the president of that honorable house would not take kindly to a revelation that the honorable house had been misled. And so I would expect that that explanation or perhaps clarification by the Nawasa official ought to be laid before the presiding officer of the upper house for him to take such action as he deems fit. Now, with regard to clarification, water in St. Paul's and Laborie, I don't know whether or not it might need clarification, but I would like consumers in St. Paul's and Laborie to take photographs or videos and post them for the attention of their parliamentary representatives. I believe on one side of the road is Mr. Clement and on the other side of the road is Mr. Bowen. I don't know whether on one side of the road the water needs more clarification than on the other side of the road. But we remember some years ago when all of that road was being dug up for the replacement of water mains. And if, as the Nawasa official said, that from time to time there may be a buildup of solid material that can get dislodged, then it appears that we are seeing solid material that was included in the water mains from years ago when those pipes were laid, and that we are now seeing the evidence coming through. And if that is the case, I would like Simple Simon to tell me if he's prepared to drink the same water. Because clarification with regard to water, or perhaps I should say clarity with regard to potable water, is something that we would like to see videographic evidence of. I said already that when my water doesn't look entirely clear, I let it run for a few minutes and I boil my water.
Okay, B, I'm glad you paused there for a minute, because one, there are a couple of comments here. First of all, Donna Joseph says, ha ha ha, Mr. B, maybe there's a nuclear facility somewhere in Soteres. Then,
Well, no. I only heard that there may have been Chinese and Russians.
Oh, well, she's right. Maybe there's a nuclear facility somewhere in Sateers. Okay. T.F. Richard says, Mr. B, the people in Laborie and some of these areas aren't even getting water.
Well, you will recall some months ago that I think the general manager of Nawasa said that he was expecting a particularly arid season, and that at some stage they might have to declare a water emergency. That hasn't happened, but clearly they are engaged in valve regulation. Now, one would expect that if you're doing valve regulation, that you probably shouldn't have consumers who are not getting water for 4 or more days at a time, as I understand is the case in certain parts of Mount Airy. And I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah.
But now we are hearing that people in Laborie said that he was not even getting water.
Yeah.
It would be interesting for people in certain parts of Mount Airy and people in Laborie to compare notes as to when last they got water and take it up with their parliamentary representative, who I believe may have something to do with public utilities.
Yeah, that's true. Margaret responds to what TF said just a moment ago. She says some of her cousins have had to pay a truck to bring in water for them.
Yes, well, this is the result of, you see, it provides opportunities for the enterprise of trucking water.
Yeah.
Now, Nawasa has water tankers, and Nawasa can distribute. But again, I can't speak to the particular details, but I know that there are privately owned water tankers. And so perhaps this may lead to what we have been told with regard to all of this booming taking place in the economy.
Yeah. You know, Alan, although this happened a couple of years ago, I know that you live in Montjaloux, and for many years, my sister also lived in the lower part of Montjaloux, going towards the Calavini Road.
Correct.
And Alan, it was a disgrace. For more than a year, my sister received bottles of water that looked like diluted coffee or a cup of diluted Milo or cocoa tea. That's how dreadful this thing was. Alan, can you imagine a consumer having to put up with that for more than a year?
Well, this is why it appears that Simple Simon is living in a different world.
John Bruno says, Mr. B, your water might be dirty. Where has he gone? Yeah. Have bad taste. But ours here in the Sister Isle is very aggressive. I know they're having problems out there in Carriacou, because I know that somebody wrote something which I published on the website. He wasn't talking about color. He's saying, you know, the desalinated water they have up there, apparently the desalinated water is not necessarily all that good for you, because the process removes certain things which really...
Yeah. It will not have the minerals in it, which is why natural spring water is preferable to this kind of water that they distill in from the Caroni swamp and sending up here in blue bottles.
Okay.
So in other words, I'm making a plug for water, natural spring water, which is bottled in the north of the island.
Okay. Have you noticed the quantity of producers we have nowadays, naturals, the bottled water we have?
Yes, once again, I can repeat that clearly the economy is booming.
Booming. Okay. I ain't going there, Alan. Don't try to bait me. I ain't going there, okay? Margaret says, so if Nawasa can't supply water, where are private contractors getting water to sell?
They're going to the hydrants in the south of the island, I guess, wherever it is. So it is a question of how many water tankers does Nawasa have available at any given time. So in the absence of a NAWASA distribution, it provides the, let me pronounce the word correctly, the opportunities
The what?
for opportunities for the private contractor to take part in all of this booming is taking place in the economy.
We're going to have to start an English class here. Opportunities 101. Oh gosh, Alan.
Listen, I'm not making these things up. I
No.
merely listen to the news.
Anybody who listens to the news knows it's a fact. I have a
It's
news.
opportunities.
The what?
Opportunities.
Opportunities. Don't bite your tongue. T.F. Richards says, over the years, NAWASA hasn't done anything to improve the water storage or catchment capacity. They have wasted money over the years. For example, whilst I attended the Boca Secondary School, they dug and erected a well which would have cost a lot of money, and nothing was ever done with it to this day. And I'm talking about back in the late 80s.
I can't confirm those statements because from time to time I have seen the ministers responsible as well as NAWASA management provide information regarding the expansion in both storage and distribution, and also the facilities that they have expanded with support from I think the European Development Fund, if there's such a thing. And so over the years, I don't think that it is accurate to say that nothing has improved. In fact, I made reference earlier to the fact, to the relaying or replacement of the water mains on that St. Paul's Main Road. I have vivid memories of it because I believe I lost a couple tires which were damaged before they were able to repave the areas where they had excavated to put the pipes. So I think that statement is not entirely accurate.
All right. I also want to add something to that. You know, I live here at Woolwich Road and Lucas Street. I'm now into my sixth year. And I have to say that, yeah, we've had a couple interruptions up until a couple of years ago. But I find that the water supply here has been really, really good. Shouldn't say I can't complain because there are occasions when I've received some diluted coffee, okay? But that's extremely rare. And as far as outages are concerned, I don't know. But I'll tell you, I've got some friends who live up there in St. Paul's, and they're having a horrendous time, Alan. Horrendous.
And as I say, perhaps that is what Simple Simon needs to be informed of before he goes on another dance class in the upper house.
Donna Joseph says, Mr. B, the booming economy is blowing up the water system so that there are different in taste and color. Donna, I think you stumped Mr. Bierzynski, and that's a very, very rare occurrence. So besides water this morning, Mr. B, what else you want to talk about?
No. We talked about Michael Avenatti and we talked about Simple Simon, and I think that's about it. You surely don't expect me to speak about anything else.
Well, come on, you're never at a loss for words. But just going back to the lawyers for a minute, Anthony DeRigg says, lawyers are the only persons in whom ignorance of the law is not punished. And apparently that's a quote from Jeremy Bentham. You're smiling.
I remember once my good friend and schoolmate Chester said that he was considering commencing the study of law because based on his observation of the results of some of them practicing it, law had to be easy to pass.
Yes. All right, Mr. Bierzynski. Hold on, I think that's it. Yeah, it looks like that's it there on social media for a minute. Thank you very much. So I'm judging by the reaction here. I see that earlier on somebody mentioned, I think it was John, mentioned that as soon as you came on, he started having difficulties with his feed. But judging by the reaction here, it seems like the feed's been going out relatively well, although I must say that on my monitor here, um, there ain't no feed. There ain't no feed. So one has to wonder what is going on, but obviously it's getting out there. You know, an interesting thing happened this week. Margaret, who is very active on social media here, she decided, because of what was happening, she decided she's going to monitor the program on her iPad and on her Android. Alan, she got a perfect feed on her iPad. On her Android, nada.
That's interesting.
Now, you might say, well, Margaret is kind of, we know Margaret is kind of, she's a friend. I can call her loony, okay? Well, let me tell you what. She wasn't that loony. Because over here, where's my little, I have another phone which I use, an iPhone. On the iPhone, I watch the program perfectly.
Uh-huh.
On the desktop, you know this, you've been to my studio, you know this big monitor I have here.
Right.
Nada.
Oh, well, I'm sure there must be some techie who will be able to tell you whether or not Huawei and Google and Android and everything else. I don't know anything about any of these people, these names I've just mentioned. I'm just hearing about them in the news. But it seems that your Apple operating system is superior to whatever it is your Android device is working on.
Alan, this only started last week. I mean, between Christmas and last week, you can ask these people here. We've been having a blast, a wonderful time. And then, you know, and the reason why these people get so uptight is that these outages seem to start happening at certain strategic points in the broadcast. Enough said. Ryan Jaban out there in Florida says, so many rivers in Grenada, and there's a water problem.
I would suggest to Ryan that the next time he visits Grenada, instead of going to Grand Anse, that he should revisit what he remembers as rivers when he was growing up.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you, my recollection of rivers, okay, I was smaller, but my recollection of rivers and what these little rivulets that we have nowadays, completely different. Yeah. We have spent the last 50 years destroying our watershed areas. And so this is one of the reasons when we have heavy rain, we have flash flooding.
Yeah.
There is nowhere left. Well, not nowhere. But the areas that rainfall was absorbed and released slowly into our rivers, they've been reduced considerably. So that brings us into the current business of climate change. Yes, it is influenced by man. And even on this little island, it is man's activities that have resulted in certain changes that we all can see.
Yeah, and nobody's paying attention. Martin Carmichael Simon. Hello there, Martin. He says, soon as Mr. B comes on, my own keep cutting off. So you see, it's not just me saying this, and somebody else said so earlier on. And T.F. Richard says, from what one is seeing in terms of phone technology, Android and Google, etc., appear to be more user-friendly. However, iOS, that's Apple, appears to be more durable.
Robust. less hackable.
Yes, well, supposedly. Thank you very much, Mr. Bierzynski. We got you.
And talking about less hackable, I still bemoan the loss of my trusty BlackBerry.
You know, I have one here. It was one of the last ones they put out a couple of years ago. Nice big phone. I don't remember. I think it was called a Torch or something like that. So if you want, you can have mine, sir.
No, I've been absorbed into an Apple family now.
Well, you're into the Apple family.
Okay. Yeah. Because, well, this is how we keep in touch with family overseas.
Okay. All in the family. Good to see you. FaceTime. You know something? I've only ever used FaceTime, I think, once, and that was with Margaret in New York. She managed to coerce me into using FaceTime. I haven't used that. I use things like Skype and Zoom and, but there's so many of these applets out there nowadays. People are just going berserk. By the way, I know that you're on WhatsApp. Did you update your WhatsApp recently?
Did I, what, sorry?
Update your WhatsApp recently?
Oh, yeah. No, that was done automatically on my iPhone.
Okay. Same here on mine. T.F. Richard says, thanks for the correction, Mr. B. And yes, I miss BlackBerry. You guys better go suck on a couple of Blackberries. Okay, Amy, good to see you, my friend.
Okay, bye now.
Take care. Allan there, Mr. B, takes us now to where the heck are we? We're about 16 minutes away from the hour, so let's take another little break here, and then we're going to come on back with the National Report.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
My name is Jennifer James, and I've been making confectionaries for the past 7 years. Growing up as a little girl, I always wanted to make these little things. Fudge, sugar cake, tamarind ball, these little things. I read something actually, and it said that tamarind itself is very good because it eliminates fat from the liver. You get the mature tamarind and you crack it, you shell it out. I would add a little baking soda, some spices. I would leave it to rest probably for about 2 hours and then add my sugar and just start kneading. I usually knead it hard enough so that I can roll it. When I finish roll it, I will paste it with the actual white or brown sugar, and you have a nice tamarind ball. I have been providing food fair with tamarind ball about 6 years now. I started producing tamarind ball to sell for the school children. I thought I could advance somewhere. So I went to food fair and I asked one of the sales persons there if they would be interested in selling my tamarind ball. And she told me yes. She told me to bring 20 packets to start with. It was really a joy for me because I wanted to extend on my little business. My name is Jennifer James and I work with the food fair to provide you with tamarind balls.
Alrighty, folks, just before we fire up the National Report, Martin Carmichael says he's on his PC watching us. Well, that's interesting. Your PC is working, getting the feed. My PC ain't working. And then TF, hold on here. TF says, FaceTime is indeed one of the cleanest video chats you can get. Hey, really, TF? Guess I better check that out. John Crow Alexander says Allen is on point with the watershed areas, and it's a shame. Yeah. And Ryan says he's monitoring us on his Apple iPad 6, and no problem. Also have a couple of latecomers here this morning. Bernadette Thomas Alexis. Good morning to you, Bernadette, from Toronto. And Mr. Darbo, who's also chimed in this morning. Good to see you, sir. T.F. Richard says, George has placed the NNP report in the correct place after our minds have been saturated with meaningful thoughts and info. We cannot or may not care less for it. Oh, TF, please. Carla Clemens says, Mr. Ray Roberts. Good morning, sir. Oh, yeah, I see that Ray has joined us out there. Bernadette says she's visiting Montreal at this time, here with her grandkids. Well, I certainly hope, Bernadette, you have a blast with those kids. I don't have any, but I know a lot of people who have grandkids and just cherish them. And let's see here. Carla Clemens says, give me some of that tamarind boils, please, and thank you now. And Bernadette says she's watching us from Facebook. Okay, Bernadette, fine. Well, I'm on Facebook right here. Look at it, girl. Nada. And, you know, I have to keep refreshing, and between doing what I do with you guys and refreshing, just a little bit too much. So, on that note, let's take a look at the National Report.
More low-income housing on the way. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Wednesday, May 22nd, I am Rakisha St. Louis. A boost to the housing stock in St. John with the planned construction of low-income housing units in the parish. 2 sites have already been located and visits were recently made. Public Relations Officer for the Ministry of Social Development, Housing and Community Empowerment, Delroy Louison, reports.
Parliamentary Representative for the St. John constituency, Honorable Alvin Dabrio, says a low-income housing project is long overdue for his parish. The MP, accompanied by his colleague, Housing Minister, the Honorable Delma Thomas, and officials from the Housing Authority, recently visited 2 sites in 2 different villages for the proposed project. They include Power Park in the Black Bay area and Stony Gut in Guelph St. John. Presently, St. John is the only parish without a housing project, and the MP says this will soon be a thing of the past. According to MP Dabrio, as opposed to having one project in the parish, the pie will be sliced, utilizing both areas identified for the units, which will cater to both the northern and southern ends of St. John.
Today is a very happy day for me. It comes after many years, as the Minister for Housing says, of clamoring and fighting so that at least we in St. John's would see the benefit of having a housing scheme, because we are the only parish or constituency that have not been the beneficiary of a housing scheme, so that we have great need for housing in this constituency. So the start of 20 units in Guelph and 10 units in Black Bay for the south of the constituents is a very good start.
According to the parliamentary representative, this is the first phase of the project, and he will be working towards further enhancing the housing stock in the parish.
We are able to at least try to help people do minor repairs and so, but at least at this time we would be able to have a whole house, so some people that really need it would get it. And as I say, this is the first phase. I will not be resting after this until we have at least 100 units in St. John's.
Housing Minister the Honorable Delma Thomas says work will soon begin on the housing project.
The housing authority will have to take up from it, so we'll have to give them all the plans and all that, and they already have the money. So money is not an issue. The issue is drawing the plan, getting approval from planning. Those processes may take a little time, not too much of time, because I believe we have to push to get it going forward. As I said sometime before, I'm hoping to see the sword turning ceremony before the end of the year. So I'm hoping that and pushing that everything will happen before the end of the year, and we could see the sword turning ceremony and boots on the ground, so that the people of St. John's can be happy and their parliamentary representative will also be happy, and therefore we will have an ease at the level of the cabinet.
Over $1 million EC has been secured for the project, which will be constructed by the Housing Authority of Grenada. For the National Report, I'm Delroy Luzon.
Thank you, Delroy. Grenada's Prime Minister says Caribbean leaders are prepared to take the lead on the politics, economics, and impacts of climate change, taking their concerns into the halls of power, whether in New York, Washington, London, Brussels, Berlin, Moscow, Delhi, or Beijing. In an article published on CNN's website, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell adds that the Caribbean will lead on setting targets that are in line with a safer planet, in line with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change 1.5 degrees Celsius report published last year and the recently published. For us in the islands, Dr. Mitchell says climate change is indeed an existential threat, and now is the time for cool heads, wise heads to build a better future for this generation and generations to come. The article states that during this year's UN Climate Summit in September, leaders from the Caribbean will be sure to present goals and ideas of how to tackle this crisis. September, his article adds, will be the time for governments to come with a strategy to the UN Climate Summit. This strategy must include a way to peak global emissions by 2020, to avoid overshoot of the 1.5 degrees Celsius target, to reduce emissions by 50% by 2030, and to reach net zero emissions by 2050. Dr. Mitchell says our message to our fellow leaders is simple. Come to New York with a plan to raise your target. This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
The world's debt is 184 trillion US dollars. That's about 86,000 US dollars per person. Join Linda Tessar, the Central Bank of Barbados 2019 Distinguished Visiting Fellow for the 6th edition of the Caribbean Economic Forum, as she helps us understand just how in a world of rising debt, we in the Caribbean can stay afloat. Follow this important live broadcast of the 6th Caribbean Economic Forum on social media and on radio and television in Barbados and across the region. Thursday, May 23rd at 8 p.m., 7 p.m. in Jamaica. Visit www.centralbank.org.bb for more information.
Welcome back. Grenada is participating in the inaugural Caribbean Youth Forum on Drug Use Prevention in Barbados, organized by the Inter-American Drug Abuse Control Commission. The forum is geared towards promoting youth leadership in the drug demand reduction. It engages youth leaders in the 18 to 25 age group in seminars and assignments to strategize measures that can be implemented within schools and communities to reduce drug use. Head of the Drug Control Unit, Dave Alexander, says the forum will be done in 3 phases.
They would be involved primarily to prepare for the major forum in October 2019. So there are a number of assignments that they would have to complete as part of this first phase. Also, they would be divided into various groups, and each group would be headed by a team leader who would be responsible for conducting various aspects of that major forum in October 2019.
Grenada's Youth Ambassador Alternate, Joshua St. Bernard, will collaborate with his colleagues at the end of the 3-day forum to formulate the national project.
The ultimate goal on his return will be to meet with the other team of persons that we would have put together to work on the Grenada leg, which will be Miss Melissa Forrester, Miss Kadina Noel, Mr. Jason Clark, and himself, Mr. Joshua St. Bernard, who will make up a team of 4 persons, both CARICOM Youth Ambassadors and CARICOM Youth Ambassadors alternates, who will then work on an action plan and proposal as it relates to coming up with a project that will address the use of drugs among our young people in Grenada that will then be implemented throughout the state of Grenada.
That was Youth Coordinator Royden Bihari. The Ministries of Education and Youth Development will lend support to the Grenada team to meet the October deadline for project implementation. Alexander says the project will be low cost, which will require no funding.
It's not a large-scale project. It's something that we just implemented within a few days or a couple of weeks. Okay, low budget, low cost. It's not anything that will involve significant funding. It will be activities that could be conducted, as I said, with very little funding, and in some cases possibly no funding, or within existing projects that are being implemented in the communities.
Finally, Grenada has used the observance of International Day for Biological Diversity on Wednesday to raise awareness on the subject of biodiversity. This day is celebrated under the theme Our Biodiversity, Our Food, Our Health. Biological diversity is seen as vital for human health and well-being. Minister with responsibility for disaster management and information, Senator the Honorable Dr. Winston Garwe, planted a mangrove tree to show his support for Biological Diversity Flagship Day. Head of the Environment Division in the Ministry of Climate Resilience, Aria St. Louis, who visited popular mangrove area Woburn Lookout, says that she is delighted to also raise awareness on biodiversity in Grenada.
Biological diversity means simply the plants and animals on the planet. The theme for this year centers on biodiversity or food or health. And what they have chosen to highlight is the importance of plants that we eat and animals that we eat and how that affects our health. The more we take care of the plants and animals on the planet and the ecosystems that they belong to, is the better quality and higher nutritional value of the food that we will have putting into our bodies, and from that, building and repair of muscles, mental acuity will all be increased. So what has been recognized and what they wanted to highlight today was the link between biological diversity and the plants and animals that we depend upon for our food security.
Mangroves are now highly recognized to perform specific tasks for the ecosystem.
In addition to the fact that they are important nursery areas for us, for economically important fish species, they also are key in filtering a lot of the land-based pollutants that come off from agricultural practices that are unsustainable, loss of topsoil. All that is collected in the mangrove areas. They're important sinks for carbon, so they help us in the resilience thrust so that the islands can also contribute towards reduction in greenhouse gas emissions.
That story just ended the national report for today, Wednesday, May 22nd. Let's recap the top story. More low-income housing on the way. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Alrighty, folks, for those of you who have hung around, I want you to know that your presence is appreciated. There's one comment that came in here, a couple of comments, but one in particular that really jumped out at me. It's from Donna Joseph. Donna says, the PM is so hypocritical. After he gave the Egyptian the rights to destroy the mangrove and runoff water catchment that was protecting the Grandance Beach, and also the Liverard project that has destroyed the area, even the Mount Hartman area. Now, he's jumping up about climate change and how he is prepared to go to the halls of justice on climate change, when he is one of the biggest destroyers of Grenada's ecosystem. When he gives all those investors the free way to mash up Grenada. Thanks, Donna. All right, folks. Quick break.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Good morning, Harry. Good to see you. Folks, time to bail out of here on this Thursday morning, but not without a parting word from the Word of God. Philippians chapter 4, verses 4 to 7 says, and I hope this perks up your day. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again. Rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Philippians chapter 4, verses 4 to 7. Okie doke, folks. Thank you very much for spending some time with me on this Thursday morning. I do pray God's blessings on you, and please, let's get together again tomorrow morning at 9.